Hey Joe, welcome to the call. Welcome everyone. Special call today. Joe is gonna speak to us about going through the process. Joe, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Joe. And I was thinking back, Jonty, I came to you, was it last September?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's when we first met, I think.
Okay, yes, today I'll ask questions. You will answer the questions. We'll have a bit of a chat to see where you started and where you eventually got to. So how about we start there? What was going on in your life, pain-wise, job-wise, life-wise, before you came to see me?
Mhm. So I'll kind of just start like symptom wise, I guess. So just I guess to say for me, it wasn't pain as such, which kind of explains why I had a bit of a kind of wonky journey to kind of finding the right help, I think. But I had been experiencing um really just uncomfortable and kind of scary symptoms for I think by the time I came to you, maybe about 3.5 years, something like that. Um, I had Is this okay if I just talk about then what else I'd done and how I then got to there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd done all the kind of medical stuff initially, and I can't remember at what point I came to kind of the world of like mind body symptoms and pain. Actually through a podcast with Howard Schubiner, and I had one of those moments that I'm sure other people have had where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what it is. This isn't um, an infection, or it's not this, or it's not this. This is what it like described it perfectly. And I just remember the relief, I guess, from listening to that conversation, and then that kind of shift that it had in me, that a lot of the fear kind of like reduced around what I'd been experiencing. Um, anyway, so without going to the full story, then I think I then went on a bit of a journey with it after that, before I came to you, where I had found out a lot of information. I'd got help from different people. I'd listened to podcasts, read the books, done all the things. But I would have periods of like respite, and then the symptoms kept coming back. So I think by the time I got to you, I was fairly convinced that I was stuck with this forever. I understood it. I mainly understood it as mind body by that point, say maybe 95%. But my then fear was that I just didn't know how I would ever get rid of it and not have to deal with it in my life.
Hmm. Okay. Glad that you found the mind body stuff. How should
Yeah.
talk as well? So he's turned a lot of people. Do you mind sharing a bit more about exactly what the scary symptoms were?
hmm Um, yeah, I will share this, and I'll just kind of caveat it with like, I think this was one of the things for me, is because my symptoms, it wasn't back pain, it wasn't shoulder pain, it wasn't like fitting a lot of the things I heard people talk about, um, was one of the things that I guess kind of threw me some curveballs for a while in understanding what was going on. And so my symptoms are like kind of bladder related symptoms. So initially like was started off with a UTI and the symptoms that you would associate with a UTI that just never went away, essentially. And I think that was the other part of it for me, that was like, an area of the body that's embarrassing to talk about, going to the toilet, all just like something that just felt really embarrassing and shameful. And I didn't really know how to take it anywhere or how to explain it. It just sounded so ridiculous, I guess, a lot of the time. So I think that for me massively played a part. And I guess is part of why I want to talk about it, because if you're one of those people who's like, oh, this isn't something I want to talk about, or I've never heard anyone talk about it in relation to this. I've heard them talk about more of the like, other kind of common symptoms. Then I was so relieved when I came across people who were talking more openly about it. So, and interestingly for me, I think my symptoms, I think I've learned, have emerged from a place where I found those symptoms really terrifying. And I remember once when someone else was telling me that they had a UTI, and I was like, oh, that's awful. I think it's the worst thing that can happen. And it's like my whole mind and body understood that. It's like, let's give her the worst thing that can happen to draw her attention. And the worst in like a most frightening way, I guess, is like normally when you have a UTI, you can take some antibiotics and then it goes away. And it's like when that didn't work, that was just horrific. It felt really horrific for me. Um, and caused a huge, so then I would say on top of the symptoms became the panic, just sheer panic and just complete fear that no one could explain what was happening. No one could offer me a resolution. And I just was like, even as I talk about it now, you're like, oh, the fear, the frightened, how frightening it was horrible. And it wasn't pain either. It wasn't pain. I couldn't say, oh, I'm in this amount of pain. It was just so uncomfortable and frightening.
Well, cool. Really? Yeah. So, and how's it affecting your life at the time?
So, I mean, initially, like I was off work for a few weeks and that sort of thing. But I guess because I thought it was like something that then just would be fixed and then I could go and carry on. And then I suppose I had to learn to just live my life. Like, so I think on the face of it, and I suppose this was also part of my skill, no one else probably knew that much about it. On the face of it, I would look like I was living quite a normal life. I was, say I was lucky in that I could continue doing most of the things that I would have done. It wasn't, like I said, wasn't in pain. It wasn't debilitating in that way. What I knew, what others didn't, is how distracted I was all the time, constantly distracted by the sensations, the thoughts, the fear. And then I would spend a huge amount of time listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts. So again, like just distracted, obsessively like distracted with just trying to learn what is this? What can I do? What can I try? But I stopped telling people after the initial sort of few months because I was just like, people are going to be sick of listening to me talking about it. Like they can't do anything. So, so yeah, I think I did a really good job of masking it and going about my life. I have a lot of like responsibilities, job, etc., things to do, and I continued doing those things with like an underlying just yeah symptom anxiety and then needing to learn all the time.
Which is a fairly common story for a lot of people, which is why I'm
Yeah.
so, happy that you wanted to talk today, because I can imagine there's a lot of people listening that are also just trying to get through it. It's just these invisible symptoms. No one knows that they have them, and they're just getting on with it. So, and it must be a scary place to be, really.
It's a lonely place to be,
Mm.
which makes it more scary. And I'm jumping ahead slightly, and know we might come on to it, but I think when I joined your group and had other people, that was one of the massive things for me with those little conversations and listening to other people and just going, I'm not alone with this. And like I knew that from the podcast and things like that, but I guess that opportunity to talk directly to other people was probably really quite healing, actually, in hindsight.
Everyone always likes those bits the best, the breakout
Yeah.
room. Yeah, to chat to people. It was something when I was also feeling alone once upon a time with my symptoms. I just didn't have, because stomach stuff also is you just don't want to talk about it. No.
Yeah.
So to have someone also there going, yep, I'm experiencing the same stuff, same personality as you,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
really transformative.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you went down the medical route, it didn't really work. Eventually, you listened to Howard Schubiner, and I guess what stood out was you felt as if you matched the personality traits and stuff. Was that what it was?
I think no, I think I mean, yes, that was part of it, but the main bit that stood out was um the way he described kind of neuroplastic symptoms fitted. It's like there's lots of indications here that there isn't something fundamentally wrong. There isn't an underlying infection or some sort of like structural issue because the symptoms are coming and going. They get better for periods of time, and I don't have, that sort of stuff gave me a huge amount of relief that I wasn't dealing with some unearthed medical issue. So I think that was the first thing that gave me a huge amount of relief. I think the personality stuff came much later, actually. probably only when we started working together.
Hmm. Okay. So based on the first bit of information that you got, all right, it's neuroplastic, it's coming and going, gave you a bit of confidence to know that this is something that you can work with. And
Mhm.
you mentioned briefly at the beginning what it was that you first did before you came to see me. What was it that you then just did?
So other than like the self-directed like reading and learning, so I'd been to see a coach. I'd seen two different coaches, actually, two mind body coaches. Yeah, that was the main kind of, I guess, bit where I'd spent some money and I did and I had great experiences with both of those people and they were lovely and there were definitely things that I learned about and that I did that were helpful. But then my symptoms would come back again. And each time they came back, it was like more frightening because it was like I thought I'd nailed this time. I thought this was it. How are they back now? Well, if they're back, they're never going to. So I would have these like, and it could be months at times actually, where symptoms are minimal or just not at all. And I think I'd cracked it because I believed I needed to crack it, right? That's the other thing. I thought it had to be fixed forever. And so when they came back, it was like, oh no, how perfectionist tendencies, it hasn't worked, it's not, it's not fixed. So the panic would be higher when it came back.
So over and over again, it felt like you were making nice progress with these coaches, but then when things came back, it was just it almost enhanced everything.
Yeah, yeah. I also had like one really scary, just to share this in case anyone else, but I was going to a Chinese um medicine doctor, is that what you call them? And at first I was working with her and they were giving me these herbs that were horrific and I was drinking them and they seemed to be like making a difference, right? Now I probably understand. I just like it was a bit of hope and I felt like there was something that was doing something and so it felt better. So obviously that also worked for a little while and then it stopped working. And I very distinctly remember a phone call with her where I was like, you need to, I need more or whatever. I need you to send me some more in the post. And she was like, basically, listen, if it hasn't gone away yet, it's not going away. You're pretty much stuck with this. And I literally can picture the whole phone call and just the absolute just hopelessness then of like someone just saying, I've known people, they've dealt with this for years and years, this isn't going away. And I was like, just beyond, yeah, it was really frightening. So these things where sometimes something's helped, then the fact that it didn't go away almost made it worse because it's like, well, I've tried the thing and now, and then that whole there's nothing else is going to work.
It's a pretty damning statement, isn't it?
It was terrifying. I still now think about emailing her, ringing her up and just saying, can I just tell you how unhelpful that was? Like, don't ever say that to people because that then I understand like actually led to my symptoms carrying on. Like it was directly, I know that won't have been that person's intent, but that fear that she instilled in me stayed for a really long time.
You know, I think in certain modalities they reach their limit and then they just collectively maybe decide as an organization if our things don't work, then it must just be that, yeah,
Yeah.
the person has this now. I'm guessing. I don't know. And obviously, yeah, Chinese medicine is wonderful in lots of ways. I remember having those herbs at one stage as well. I mean, I like the taste of them. I remember liking them.
Oh, mine were horrific.
They weren't good ones.
It was so unpleasant.
Mine,
I would do it because it was like, what if this is going to help me?
uh,
I'm doing it. Because I also believe, like for me with the bladder stuff, like, oh, maybe I'm not drinking enough, so I need to drink too much. Maybe I'm drinking too much. Maybe I shouldn't have caffeine. Like, again, I'm sure with stomach things, you've done a lot of these things where people are like, oh, well, you need to have cranberry juice, or you need to do this, or you're not drinking enough water, Joe. You just need to drink, do you know? And you're just like, so all just like plays with your mind as to like, what should I don't even know what I should or shouldn't be doing. Yeah, so the herbs was just part of that whole. She told me I wasn't taking them often enough or something. I need to take more.
oh, really? That was the thing.
Mm.
Yeah. And really, I mean, because earlier you mentioned, you did the doctors and the medical route and stuff, and that's not to mention, like you said, you probably looked online and it said drink cranberry juice. So you tried that, and then you went to the medicine person, the Chinese medicine person, and you try everything, right? Anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they prescribed me some. Well, first of all, the doctors wanted to prescribe me anti-anxiety medication. But I was like, I'm anxious because of the symptoms, not anxious otherwise. Like the symptoms are making me anxious, and then that's causing, then I learned that's causing the symptoms, and then that's causing the anxiety. And I even had friends saying, well, maybe take the medication and that, and maybe that would have helped to take some of the edge off the anxiety or something that might, I don't know. But I was like, no, that's not it because I wouldn't be anxious if this wasn't happening. So I never even tried that. And then they gave me amitriptyline as well. Again, I just don't think they knew what they were doing. I took that once and it was great. And I had some reprieve, and then I took it the second time, and obviously it made no difference. And then that was it. I didn't want to go down that route anyway, but you could just see they were like, well, what can we pull out of our hat here? Because they didn't really know.
And I wonder the extent because I'm very much of the frame that multiple truths can coexist. So I believe that, these medications are probably doing wonders for certain people.
Mhm.
And we could exist in somewhat of an echo chamber where we're kind of seeing when it doesn't work for people. But yeah, I wonder if it works for people. It's intriguing to me.
Maybe.
Yeah,
It would
maybe.
never have got to the root of what was going on. It might have helped
Mm.
take the edge off somewhere. I don't know.
And then something else arises and they give you another pill for that. I think it just seems to be the carousel.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I'm
um,
all about that.
okay, so you worked with some mind-body people, it was helping, but then it would come back, it felt like it enhanced. And then eventually you found me. What was it that you saw that you were like, okay, maybe this can help?
IFS. Yes.
Okay.
So I had also in my journey done some IFS therapy before with someone else and not for my symptoms, although interestingly now I look back it made quite a big difference at the time to my symptoms, but I never quite um put the two together. So I'd stopped working with them a long time ago, and then I think I had come to the decision that well, I must have known it then that IFS was what I wanted to do. And I think what I've then done is gone to like the IFS directory. I had looked at different people, and then it was then the link there when you were talking about chronic pain and IFS, and I was like, okay, that's it, tick tick. Um, yeah. So I did have a fairly sort of specific what I was looking for. By that point, I think I'd done enough to start to have a sense of what I needed.
Okay. IFS therapy tends to be the thing for a lot of people when they eventually find me. For anyone watching that doesn't know what IFS therapy is, it stands for Internal Family Systems Therapy. It's a wonderful modality, which I often describe as an extension of mindfulness meditation. Really helps us learn to acknowledge different parts of the psyche and to allow it to be there, which is what we need to do with chronic pain because we're repressing emotions, and repressing is something we're doing unconsciously. So IFS teaches you how to become conscious of the unconscious and how to allow it to be there. So it was the defining factor for me with my pain and for many others. And what was it? You said you'd already started to learn about it. Why had you already started to learn about it? How did you find it?
Podcast again. I actually can credit Rangan Chatterjee with some of these like
Yeah.
massive turning points for me. He was talking to Richard Schwartz, who's we call him founder of IFS, who came up with it. He was talking about it in a really open way, actually, in his podcast, that he'd then engaged in some IFS therapy himself, uh, and so I just really like the whole approach of IFS. It just seemed to make a huge amount of sense, particularly around a sort of allowing these different parts of you and these what seemingly contradicting parts of you and things like that. And so I just really liked it as an approach separately, even and he wasn't talking about it in terms of chronic pain or conditions or anything like that.
Mm.
Um, and I continue to follow that interest and want to train as an IFS therapist, but that's an aside. But I think it can help with so many things. And I suppose what I didn't know at the time when I was looking at IFS, that actually the learning for me was going to be about allowing all this stuff to be present. I still thought, I think when I came to you, that this was going to be about fixing and getting rid of.
Mm.
So that's one of the massive like mindset shifts is that actually I don't need to fix or get rid of. can I acknowledge and allow it? And the parts helps you to do that, doesn't it? So
The pathway do. Yeah. So I mean, Dr. Chatterjee's podcast is amazing. So he's really helping a lot of people understand and learn all about all these modalities and where to go from there.
yeah.
So yeah, no, really big fan of that. So okay, so you started the process and you thought it was going to be about fixing, and then he was like, Jonty's making me allow these things.
Damn him.
What were your initial thoughts about the process? I know it was a while ago, but
So I'm trying to, yeah, it's hard actually to kind of think back from where I am now and then where I was at that point. Maybe, and I was kind of thinking maybe you almost remember a little bit better where I was, but I just still think I was very much wanting you to tell me it could go away and that we were going to fix it or get rid of it. And I think the massive kind of then learning for me, and I don't know at what point in it this happened, but it was so we kind of talk about it's like in my head being able to tell myself it's okay when this comes back, but not just that, because I think I tried that in the past and my body didn't believe it, but like experiencing that this stuff could come and it could go, like other feelings, like other sensations or experiences or feelings that I have, they come and they go. And it was just about allowing that kind of natural like change. And I didn't think that could apply to my symptoms, but somehow at some point I was like, okay, that can. And once I, weirdly, I think once I accepted that they, this might sound alarming because it did to me at the time, but once I could accept that they might be around forever, that's when they started to get better. But like genuinely accept, not like, oh yeah, I can deal with this forever. I really don't want to. But like genuinely this might come and go, and I'm going to be okay because I know what to do when it does, kind of thing. And then weirdly, I think, well, not weirdly now, but like that's when a lot of the relief came.
it's
So
hard for.
that, yeah,
Oh, oh, Joe, sorry.
there you go.
It's hard to envision that. Like, it's hard to think, like, if I accept that this is going to be around forever, how is that going to make things pass? But what you're saying here is vital because what the IFS process tends to teach people, and I can imagine was a big part of what taught you as well, is that the part of you that was frightened, afraid, um, we do a lot of work to try and stop ourselves being afraid and frightened unknowingly. And IFS teaches you that you're doing that, and it teaches you how to be okay with the fact that fear is there.
Mhm.
Which is very often a lot of the reason why symptoms are there, because they're trying to teach you to be okay with fear. IFS does a very good job of teaching you, any of us, how to be okay with fear. And when you learn to be okay with fear, you watch it rise and fall, and then something changes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
In your
yeah,
brain, you begin to kind of go, oh, if fear comes and goes, and it's okay, when I allow it, maybe actually allowing symptoms does the same thing.
yeah. And I think that was exactly it. I had just been trying so hard to get rid of the fear all the time because it feels like you want to get rid of it. It doesn't feel very nice in your head. Like, I don't, I shouldn't be afraid. And so there was a huge amount of resistance to fear. And that was really hard to do that, and even now when the fear pops back up, I know that like, or I recognize better my resistance is like, I don't want to feel this. This is horrible. Um, so that took a while to get my head around and get my body to try and have some acceptance. But it was just that part of even just saying to myself, gosh, it makes sense that I'm afraid. It makes sense I'm afraid. Like when the symptoms would come up, I could then like hold a bit of space for it. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, of course I'm afraid. This can feel really frightening sometimes. And can I just allow myself to be afraid? Um, that's not easy, but when you I don't want to pretend that it is, but like once you can do that even occasionally or just a little bit more than it did before, then it was enough over time. Because I really understood by that point that my fear was related to my symptoms, but I just didn't know how to, what I thought was get rid of the fear at the time, but it wasn't. It was about allowing the fear.
It was really beautifully put, how you just put that. Like, if I can just do it a little bit at a time, because that's what happens.
Mm,
We don't just suddenly go, come on, fear, bring it on. You don't do that. It's just
No.
you just daily, consistently just build up a bit more courage to allow more of it to be here. And it's very confusing in the mind body space because certain practitioners are quite insistent about the pain fear cycle. And that insinuates that fear is going to perpetuate cycles. Perpetuate pain. If I'm afraid, then I'm going to have more pain. So a lot of people come to see me and they go, I need to stop being afraid because the pain is going to continue. And I say, no, 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 no. You need to learn how to be okay with fear. What actually entails to allow fear to be here.
Yeah. And that was exactly me. I was that was the work I'd been doing, how to not feel the fear because the fear is making the pain, the discomfort worse. Um, so then I guess even it's just like being with the fear, but being with the parts that are resisting the fear and allowing space for them as well, because that's a massive thing that I never knew there was this much resistance in me to so many different emotions, but fear in particular. So just noticing that I'm resisting and what that looked like even that when I said about having that genuine belief that I'll be okay if these symptoms continue. Um, there was like even in that is like, yes, but therefore it has to stop kind of thing. Like you're kind of still have that expectation and the resistance is kind of hidden in there somewhere. So just having that greater awareness of what's going on internally, which can feel very confusing and yeah, difficult to work out sometimes.
I can recall the emails we'd send back and forth to each other
Yeah.
about this. It's not the way that any of us have been conditioned, nurtured. We've been conditioned to rescue ourselves and fix difficult emotions, to always be calm and happy. We're always longing for them. So naturally, parts of us will resist fear when it arises. So we need to learn how to work with that resistance.
Mhm.
Uh, I've done, rather than you and I going into too much about the details of that, I've done YouTube videos on that, but it was nice to just reflect on that a bit, how it specifically helped you. And
Mhm.
then, so would you say that was your major challenge, the challenge of just the conceptualizing how you had to be with emotions and
Yes,
yeah.
100%. Hmm.
And also, I mean, outside of sessions, I know I have everyone doing meditations and stuff. I know that maybe finding the time to do that was also a challenge, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to be really honest about this, if that's helpful. But yes, it is a challenge, and like I am completely like sold on it being helpful and experience it being helpful and stuff like that. So it's not like I'm remaining skeptical about it, but I have really struggled, and we've had conversations about just my finding that space. And I don't, it started off being a time conversation, but I think it still remains a priority conversation in my head as to like what else trumps it um first. And also just the discomfort with not doing anything. I one of my personality traits that I'm sure I will maybe share with others is just that kind of constant doing and being productive and must be using my time wisely. And my time is limited, and there's a reality to that. And then also, as valuable as I know the meditation is, I find it hard sometimes to prioritize that around other people's needs or even, yeah, kind of my own need for productivity. So that remains ongoing. But I was kind of thinking about reflecting on what has changed though, that like I don't do long meditations yet. It's still something I aspire to, but I am so much more just in tune. I was going to say not quite moment to moment, but like more regularly. I just pay attention more to my body, what's going on, what I'm experiencing, and if there's something that's feeling uncomfortable or that I notice that I want to get rid of, just trying to spend a bit of time with that. So that can be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or even a few breaths that just kind of, oh, okay, that's interesting. I also used to do this thing, which I'm still got a part of me wants to do now, where I'm like, oh, why do I feel like that? Why has that come up now? You know, almost like a kind of questioning to fix type of thing. And I try and be now a bit more, oh, okay, that's interesting that that's there. Like even when my symptoms come back now, like, it's curious that that's shown up today. And noticing that it's there and oh yeah, I noticed that part of me wants to start having a bit of a freak out about this and another part of me wants to immediately jump in and just that so that kind of yeah, just more mindful like awareness of what's going on in my body. Coupled with the meditations, absolutely as and when I can, and my voice noting, journaling that I do so that I don't have to sit and write things down. So yeah. So I like to think I'm tuning in. Not
You,
always.
but I mean, you found a way to make the process work for you in your life because I mean, without going into the details of it, you have a busy life,
Mm.
family and work and so and it shows like stay consistent within the time frames that you can allow it to be and you can get there.
Yeah. I think so because I've had several months now of not having any intense symptoms. So, and not that that is my goal anymore as such, but it's like when I reflect back, I'm like, well, I definitely think that something has shifted for me. And I think some of that is when, if I do get some symptoms similar, different, then I just respond really differently to before. I literally like, because we had this today and even a few days ago, I hadn't had any for ages and they kind of started to come up again. I just had to remind myself kind of what about what comes out, what that triggers. And yeah, and they came and they went a couple of days, well, not even a couple of days, a day.
That's testament to, the work that you put in, the self-discovery. Just hearing you talking about how you relate to your psyche and the parts arising for you, it's beautiful because it shows that you've put in that work.
Mm,
You understand, all right, this part's coming up for me, it needs this from me, this is what happens, and you've just watched things coming and going so much now, you're a bit more, you respond differently, I think, in your
yeah,
work. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, which is great. So, okay, in that sense then, and I know you've shared a bit about it in the call already, but what then, which part of the process was really pivotal for you? What was an epiphany?
Yes, I've shared the bit about just learning that it's probably these things or something will come and go forever. And so there was some of that. I think the other, I don't know if this is an epiphany as such, but like one thing that I just hold on to is like something I say to myself, my only job is to just be with what's here.
Mhm.
And because being perfectionist, worrying about failing, all that kind of stuff, I explained in the past about how then I feel like when the symptoms come back, I'd failed in some way. I hadn't done it right, or I hadn't done enough, or I hadn't meditated enough times that week or something. And then once I changed the job to my only job is just to be with what's here, I could succeed at that much more easily because it didn't mean I'd failed. It didn't mean all these other things. It was just that's all I have to do. And I guess where I got, I suppose that came from different places, but for me, just the repeated like group meditations was really helpful just for practice and practice and practice. Of being able to be with whatever was there that week at that time that we were doing that. Yeah, I guess other kind of epiphany moments. I mean, without going into loads of detail, I guess for me in the IFS sessions, there's things that I've learned about, parts of myself and particularly, I guess, younger parts of me and what they're trying to do and yeah, where all of this, we talk about these traits, but like where they come from, what they're worried about, and they're always trying to like work so hard for me all the time to like overcompensate and, you know, yeah, get all the things done and be the sort of mother or, person at work or all those things are just working so hard all the time. And I remember one session where okay, emotional talking about this, but like we're kind of just talking about like I'm doing the best I can. And sometimes it was just about I'm doing the best I can. Ugh, yeah. So sometimes I have to remember that when I'm giving myself a hard time.
Mm. Invaluable. Yeah. Because you really, when you go inside and start to discover these parts, it paints the picture of everything that we ever do, really, the way that we
Yeah,
do anything. So getting to know these parts is just so empowering, isn't it, going forward? Because
yeah,
they respond to you know what they need from you if they come up and they freak out. So I understand why you know there's emotion here
Mm.
about it. I share that really. And for anyone watching, so Joe and I would see each other for one-on-one sessions, and there was also there's a group. There's also the community. So you mentioned the weekly calls. Anyone that sees me one-on-one or anyone in the group as well comes to calls, and we do a group meditation, and you get to meet other people going through similar things. And yeah, you know, you mentioned how those calls as well were quite vital, how you got to meet other people on the calls. Was that the main thing in the calls that you liked, and having some questions answered, I guess?
Yeah, and just the fact I used to say that it just held space because I was like, this is what I'm doing in that hour, and anyone outside of in my life, I was like, that's what I'm doing. So it held space for me that I could commit to doing the meditations. Yeah, so I found the meditation practice really helpful. The little then, certainly when I was doing the calls, those little one-on-ones with other members of the group was just lovely. I mean, I like meeting new people anyway, but just that kind of just sharing of, people's symptoms might be different or their pain or their experiences, but just that the kind of the struggle was lots of it was very relatable. So like yeah, like I say, I found that really helpful. And then just hearing as well from people about what they're trying, what's helped, what's working, receiving compassion from people, yeah, that was probably quite a big thing because like I said, I'm quite a good masker, so in the rest of my life, I'm not sure that I show a particular need for that. So it was quite nice then to receive that from different people in the group too. So I think there was a lot of things, I guess, that come together in that sort of forum that are just really human and necessary.
That community was, yeah, super important. I mean, I was for years, people would kind of say, "Can I meet other people?" They'd want my one-on-ones would want to meet other people. And I'm like, "Oh, I want to set it up." It's so difficult to put it all together, so you just put it aside. And eventually, I just started the Tuesday classes before the forum. And again, everyone was just like, "Oh, we we like this. Just this. Can we just do this all the time?" So
Yeah.
I'm really happy. It's worked out in the way that it has, and everyone's benefiting from it. So
Hmm. Me too.
okay, so IFS worked for you, the groups worked for you. And then usually, I like to wrap up the call. I know you spoke a bit about where you're at now with everything.
Hmm.
Um, is there anything more you want to share about that?
Um, yeah, I guess just, it's the transparency. It's not that all of life's struggles have disappeared, shockingly. Yeah, Jonty. Um, so yeah, life continues and the challenges continue. Thankfully for me, my symptoms are much less of that kind of obsessive fixation and stuff that I had before, isn't there. I suppose the other thing that just to say that I hadn't mentioned was the other bit about the work that we did and maybe is more within the lessons and stuff is about just doing things for enjoyment's sake. I hadn't massively clocked that before in my life. Lots of things were like to be done and, just being productive and helping other people out or whatever. And I don't do more of that now. I do more of stuff that I just really enjoy doing for enjoyment's sake. And I actually, when at the start of this process, when my symptoms were bad, I was doing it anyway. And that was something that I took from you about just going and doing those things, even when you don't feel great or, but just remind yourself, I can still do these things. And I think over time then the symptoms lessened, obviously the kind of enjoyment lessened and it was less about having to manage them in the background. So I do more of that now. Like I still all got all my responsibilities and things to do and everything, but I'm much better at prioritizing, yeah, just a little bit of fun as well.
I love that you
Um,
say that. Sorry, go on. Go on.
yeah. So that's kind of where I am. Do more of that. But and then like I've talked about just maybe having more awareness when things do come up, of what might be going on, what I need, how to respond, and not responding with that same fear and resistance that I have maybe in the past.
I love that you shared the fun piece because I think in these interviews there's this notion people watching go, okay, this process is going to be emotions. I'm just going to have to be with emotions all the time. But a big part of the process is creative outlets and hobbies and having fun and how we've held ourselves back from that maybe because of symptoms or not realizing how important that is, friends and community. So I'm glad that you mentioned that and how pivotal that was for you to really go, okay, I need to do that.
Yeah, because before when I was doing the work, but very intensely doing the work, and that exactly as you described as like my emotions and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, like you need that there needs to be balance as well of like just some lighter moments. So that was really important. And because I guess the way you put it within, you can maybe explain that better than me, but like the four components, it was like, oh, this is the work too. So like going and just doing fun things with people that you like is also part of the work, if you like, and that helped to give it permission, I suppose.
It's part of the work because anyone watching this right now may be thinking, I can't get to fun, I'm too debilitated. So certainly at the beginning there is quite maybe a bit more of effort with emotions just to kind of give you the courage to get out the door. But yeah, it would be about trying to get back to life as soon as you can, and if you can't, just having someone hold your hand so that you can have the courage to do so. Because at the beginning it is work, isn't it? You're terrified. You're like, am I gonna explode when I go out with my friends and have fun? So it feels like work.
Yeah,
You see that you don't explode, on the contrary.
no.
Okay, well, final question, and again, you may have answered it in some degree. What advice or anything that you'd like to share to anyone considering starting this process would you give? And it's a big question.
It's a really big question.
Yeah. And a lot of it
Um,
may have been answered already, that people kind of understand, but um,
yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and there's yeah, parts of me that think I need to give some really wise answer. I suppose something that I've noticed in this going through this process for myself is obviously how much benefit it's had and like the learning I've had. And sometimes we've talked with other people about wanting to share that learning with other people and just that people aren't always ready or it's maybe not for them or and so that's always hard to know when to share, right, with people what you've got from it and what you've learned. If someone's open and wants to hear it, gosh, I don't know what advice would I give. Why does that feel like such a difficult question? I guess it's just about remaining really open-minded, about what might be going on. You know, the trouble is everybody's story is like so different and what they're experiencing, but just if they keep like a curiosity for what could be happening, to cause some of the like the suffering or pain, to talk to other people to find out as much as they can. Gosh, I feel like this isn't very helpful. Why is that? Yeah,
it's a big question.
it's
And,
a really
and,
good
and
question.
obviously, you and I have also discussed the extent to which we see people around us that very much could be helped by this process.
Yeah,
Up a wall, don't they? So there is this,
yeah,
I'm quite sure exactly what I would or wouldn't say. Maybe there is the sense of it's best not to say anything and just kind of work on the parts of us that need them to change and just be with it. So I'm aware it's a big question, Joe.
yeah, yeah,
But your answer is beautiful, as cliche as being open-minded is. That is essentially what you need to be when you come in here, because I'm saying you need to be with fear. Like people are going to be like, no,
yeah.
that. So it's as beautiful an answer as anyone could have given, really.
Okay, good. Leave it. Won't add anything then.
You're gonna have to have fun and you're gonna have to meditate a bit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Even with those skeptical parts, I think, because I think as well, there's times even when I sound like, oh yeah, obviously like I am very enthusiastic about all of it, but there are definitely times in there where you're like, really, is this going to make a difference? And it wasn't, at times and it doesn't make a difference. And you're like, oh, well, this isn't the thing, I haven't found the thing yet. I need to keep looking. And so I suppose also just kind of staying with it. We definitely talked about times where like, oh, you had a word for it, like the healing crisis, where you'd start to get a little bit better and then it would sort of get worse for a while. And I remember just going, this isn't going to work. And um, yeah, it's easy to forget those parts of the journey, but they were quite hard actually. And then just having to keep coming back to it, keep coming back to it and persist, even if you don't get like instant change in the way that you're expecting.
Yeah, the healing crisis moments, everyone goes through them.
Yeah,
So it feels like a relapse. It feels like nothing you've done has mattered. And in those moments, the doubt, the skepticism can really take over. And you just,
absolutely.
but
Yeah.
it's important in that process to really have that community to hold you and go, this is normal. Doubt and skepticism as an emotion isn't exempt either. You also have to learn to welcome this.
Mhm.
And, uh, and then you kind of get better again. So it moves. But yeah, I'm glad you said that as well. Okay, well, is there anything else you wanted to share today?
No, I don't think so. That's everything.
Stuff. Well, it goes without saying. I really want to share. Obviously, this outside of the recording, but you've, in general, been an invaluable part of the community. So really, really, I'd love to have you. And I always try and get people to ask questions. I mean, not that anyone has to, but on the group calls and stuff, and you're always willing to share and to engage, and that really just helps everyone through their process as well. So, just and extending a thank you to you as well, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for watching. If anyone has any questions, you can ask below. If this is on YouTube, you can ask below on YouTube. If this is in the community, you can ask below in the community. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you later, Joe.
Thanks, Shanti.